Hi, and welcome to this episode of Bloodhound Pix. As always, I am one of your hosts, Craig.
I'm Kyle.
And this is Josh.
And this episode, we have one of our double features that was Josh's pick, and we are doing Split Second and ICU or Detox. And the I is the actual spelling of the eyeball instead of just the letter. So, Josh, you take us away. I'm assuming you'll probably want to go with Split Second as it came out first.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's the order they came out, so we can do it that way. So yeah, Split Second.
I unloaded a full clip 450 Magnum, point blank. He disappeared.
He can hear its heartbeat.
Where did he go?
He knows it's out there.
Somebody must have seen something.
He knows what it can do.
Are you telling me?
There's something running around loose in this city, ripping the heart out of people and eating them.
Maybe he eats them for breakfast.
Now, it's really pissing him off.
Faster!
And his new partner
I work alone.
makes two.
Paranoid people with guns are a menace to society.
You'd be paranoid too if you had a dipshit like this following you.
I've got honors in serial homicide.
Oh, terrific.
It has no motive.
The only thing we know for sure is that he's not a vegetarian.
It has the DNA structure of all its victims.
It gives no warning.
You ready to die?
But one thing's for certain.
We gotta get bigger guns!
It ain't no pushover.
Two, yeah! Bingo!
We want to get to Cannon Street.
No, you don't.
Yes, we do.
Boy, are you pushy.
I wouldn't say this thing thinks it's Satan. I'd say it is Satan.
Rat bastard!
Satan is a deep shit.
Get out of there! 5 seconds!
Okay, 4, 3, 2.
Rutger Hauer. Split Second.
Nice timing.
Split Second.
Is from 92. And I've seen this movie a few times. I did rewatch it yesterday though, specifically for this show, and I liked it even more than I remembered liking it. So I mean, you know, this is your like log line or synopsis of Split Second. It's in a flooded future London, Detective Harley Stone hunts a serial killer who murdered his partner and has haunted him ever since. He soon discovers what he is hunting might not be human, which for some mind-boggling reason, the fucking poster art spoils in some of the most clueless fucking marketing ever, considering as the plot of this film unfolds, they make it seem like it's a 100% human killer, when in fact, yeah, we're gonna spoil it. It's an alien sort of ripoff monster thing. So one of the things that for me that I obviously, like I said, I've seen this a few times, but one of the things that I was kind of mesmerized by is how many genres this movie fucks with, because it's a lot, right? It's a science fiction film. It's definitely a horror film. It's a monster film, it's subgenre. It's a fucking buddy cop film. It's a neo-noir film. I mean, it does a pretty good job, I think, of marrying.
It's post-apocalyptic and it's kind of action too.
and action, yeah, and it does a really good job, I think, of melding together all this shit, because obviously most movies, I think, cross over genres, whether it be 1 or 2 or 3 even. This fucking movie has like 7 or 8, and it does a great job, to me anyway, of kind of melding them all together. And it's a fucking comedy too. I forgot how funny a lot of the shit is in it, and I don't even necessarily know if it was that intentional or Rutger Hauer is just so into this goddamn role that he could literally say anything and it would be funny. But it's just, again, we're talking about great actors before we came on, and he's obviously one of them, and he just ran like a motherfucker with this character, this ridiculous fucking character of Harley Stone, which has got to be one of the stupidest names I've ever fucking come up with or heard for a fictional person. I mean, the guy is like the character is like sort of a cliche in that, right? He's just an asshole. He hates everything. He couldn't be any more cynical. He survived. I think, one of the characters tells another character that he just survives on coffee, chocolate, and anxiety. And I'm like, that's fucking hilarious. Again, I don't know if it's really supposed to be funny, but it was fucking hilarious. But yeah, I mean, Rutger Hauer just eats the ever-loving shit up out of this role. And it is sort of a cliched kind of character, but I don't know, he sells it to me, and you can tell that he just loves it. What did you guys think of Split Second?
I liked it. I've never seen it, so it was one that's on my watch list forever because of Rutger Hauer and that poster. It was pretty fucking hilarious. And just his character is such an asshole, as you said, and is so like, he's such a stereotype, and Rutger Hauer commits to it so much that it's hilarious. And it's cool, weird, supposed future 2008 flooded London. Yeah, it was fucking... The only thing, what was weird about it, and she did fine, but like Kim Cattrall, her character just felt weird. I don't know. I don't think she did a bad job. There's just something weird about that.
She kind of felt, I don't know, I guess one of those where she's just kind of thrown in as a love interest. I don't know. It felt like
she didn't have anything to do other than that.
Yeah.
Well, and the relationship between her and Rutger Hauer was weird, because it was like, at first it didn't seem like we know they had an affair, right? Because she used to be married to his partner that got killed. So we know they had an affair, but I didn't necessarily think that they were like dating one another, but then they just start kissing and like acting like they're in a relationship. And I was like, all right, I guess, but none of this really matters, but okay, fine.
The scene where they first meet was weird.
Yeah.
Cause I got that too. And I was like, I didn't get for a second that was that guy, his dead partner's ex-wife. So then I was like, wait a minute, is this just some other person he's dating? Is this his sister? Who is this?
Yeah.
But it was, but when he kisses her in the hospital, like awkwardly, is pretty fucking hilarious. And then I love that, like, during the climax, instead of doing the typical, like, whatever explosion and then they kiss and that's kind of the end, they're just making out as that train is exploding.
Yeah. So I liked it. I thought it was fun. I was kind of like Kyle, where I'll get more into it in our second film, where I've wanted to watch it for many years because of the poster, and then I watched it a couple months ago, I think, because I found it on Amazon Prime. It was late at night, and first, I mean, I love because I don't know, when you get like a I know this is set in England. When you get an American post-apocalyptic film, it's always really like widespread and everything. And then for some reason, it's like there's certain ones out of Europe where it seems like they just utilized like I don't know, if you find like bed sitting room from the 60s where they went to just a landfill, or ones like this where it's like they just found an area that was kind of a swamp area or things like that they could just utilize instead of, and it works perfectly to kind of make it more unique than just your, desert, whatever you find in any sort of Mad Max or Mad Max knockoff. I will say with the movie itself, it feels like I had it written down in my notes of like somebody going through withdrawals where it's like, so there's the character's line delivery is so tonally different, where 1 second he'll be like almost buddy with
Durkin.
Yeah, Durkin. He'll be almost buddy, and then the second line later, he's like grabbing him and shoving him up against the wall, or things
calling
like
him
that.
a fucking asshole.
Yeah, and it just goes back and forth like that throughout. There's
That's called drama, Craig.
Yeah, but it comes out of nowhere throughout, and some of the line readings are weird, or things like that. It's like from like production and all of that standpoint, like it works so well. And then what is it? There's the scene, obviously we're spoiling stuff, where he gets the heart, where it's like the mold of the heart.
No, it's the mold of the creature's teeth.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So he gets that, he goes out of the crime scene into the alley. There's no sign of the creature anywhere. There's not like sounds or anything. And then he just starts firing. He yells Foster and starts firing in the air.
Dude.
Like that. Yeah, it just comes out of nowhere. So much stuff. And it feels like they spoof it. I don't even know if it's specifically this, but I know, Kyle, you wanted to get into it potentially in the future, but Matthew Holness's Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. And that's the same way the lines are done, but that is completely like a spoof of this type of stuff is how it feels.
Kind of. I mean, yeah. But no, there's another point, like early on, I don't remember what they cut to, if it's just Dick Durkin or whatever. Something's going on like within the first 10 minutes, and then right before Rutger Hauer goes to the police station for the first time, there's that shot of him like grabbing cell bars and just yelling, but then it cuts to him like at the counter like checking his gun.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck? I mean, it's amazing, but I was like, that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I think another thing that I was really kind of paying attention to more than the plot, because like I said, I don't even know how many times I've seen this, but the production design was amazing. Like literally everywhere, and like making London all flooded out, and it part of the, so we said it came out in 92, takes place in the future, which was 2008. It's never daylight anymore, which all worked really well. That really gets into the science fiction point of the genre that it plays with. But I thought the production design was great for literally everything. Like the police station looked cool. That fucking morgue scene looked cool. Even the bar scene looked cool. And then, transforming, having it rain constantly, and, having the flooding. I mean, it all looked really good, and they clearly spent money to make it look good.
I think even the creature looks pretty good, even though it's kind of an Alien ripoff, but they use it sparingly enough, except for when you see like its full head and you can see there's like a you can just tell, like, did you take a motorcycle helmet and put a bunch of shit on it? Because now he just has like a visor where his eyes would be.
Yeah.
I actually thought that the creature was probably the worst looking thing in it.
I thought
But,
it was okay.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I mean, at least, if that is true, if that's the worst looking thing in it, I mean, fuck, at least they, you don't really ever see it until the end anyway. So
That's what I thought that they did that was good. Was like it was super tall.
yeah,
You didn't really see it, and then when like right before you really see it at the end, like it comes up behind Reckerhauer, and it's just a close shot, so you just see like a big hand coming around him. Like that stuff was like I was like, at least you're using it cleverly.
Yeah.
oh yeah, for sure. And I did think too, another thing that was definitely not intentionally hilarious was this 10-foot tall alien ripoff-ish creature wields a fucking machine gun at one point, which was also fucking hilarious. Like, dude, you're a fucking 10-foot tall beast that rips people's hearts out. Why are you shooting people?
Dude, my favorite part was when Dick Durbin, like, I think it's when he gets shot out of a window, and then you find out he just had a bulletproof vest or whatever, but he gets all stressed out, and so Reckerhauer just starts like giving him chocolate and coffee, and then they go to the evidence locker, and they're just looking at all these guns like, this isn't big enough. No, this one's not big enough. We need bigger guns.
I'm surprised. I thought your favorite part would be, where in that club, the club scene. I forgot because Josh, you mentioned it, where he is pointing the gun at all the people, and then he points the gun at the dog.
My favorite part was earlier in the club scene when he's just like, I need coffee. Where the fuck is my coffee?
Then he brushes his teeth, swishes it out with coffee, then washes it all down with a cigarette or whatever.
Also, we have to mention the fucking pigeons in his apartment. That was one of the funniest moments. So, like, Kim Cattrall comes back with him, and they're catching up or whatever. But there's a moment where you can just see like a pigeon flew by. They're talking. Then another one like almost hits her in the face, and you can see it's like a real pigeon, real reaction. And he's just like, "Sorry about the pigeons."
See, and that part I didn't know because there are so many instances of. I mean, obviously Ridley Scott made both movies of, Alien and Blade Runner.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was going to say like Reckerhauer is the bird actor now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad Kyle you brought up the apartment because in conjunction with how ludicrous having pigeons flying around are because his windows are broken, isn't that what he says? So obviously pigeons are just gonna fly through your apartment. The character's name is Harley Stone, right? So you don't necessarily even know that his first name is Harley, and I think the reason that they kind of kept that out of the dialogue and everything was because it comes up in another humorous way. But in the apartment, in the character's apartment, there's all of this fucking Harley Davidson memorabilia and shit, and also a full motorcycle. And the only thing I could think of is, how the fuck did he get that in there? Considering, he what did he live on, like the fucking 7th floor or something? Like, dude, did he build that from scratch, just sitting right there? I mean, that's the only way you would get that fucking thing in there.
That's the only thing you can do when you're stuck on a case you can't solve, Josh. You just build a motorcycle in your loft.
For 10 years or whatever the amount of time it was.
I love that we get those like 1 or 2 flashbacks of his partner's death or like right before, but it's complete with like the partner being poorly dubbed and everything.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, this is supposed to be sort of an emotional moment, but it's not.
Yeah, those I think it happens twice, and those moments are so weird. Like even like with the like sepia tone of the image or whatever, and it's just like, I really don't think you needed to have either one of those in there. I mean, I get what you're doing, but it just looks so fucking weird.
Other than I guess like seeing that little bit of the creature like run by or whatever. I mean, you really don't
that's
need
true.
that either.
Yeah.
You have people getting their fucking hearts ripped out. Like, we know it's not a real person.
Yeah, that's very true.
Also, we need to talk about the level of how exposition is given, and this kind of goes into the dialogue. One thing I remember is, but there's the whole point where Dick notices that apparently the blood hasn't dripped off the ceiling. It's caked in this like blood sign, the astrological Scorpio sign.
You could smear blood, Craig.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
Look,
It
I'm
only
the blood logic guy here.
No, I'm saying it only happens to drip. Like it's been there for so long.
Yeah. That's
It's this
true.
whole thing, and it only drips like the once on Rutger Hauer's gun or whatever.
That's blood logic.
Yeah. And so then he also talks about there's this symbol and that it's a cult. And there's this whole conversation where he's like, "Oh, well, you went to school, so you know about this stuff." Like, what does that even mean? The three of us, as we've talked about on the show, met in school, and I don't think we ever had you had to have gen ed of occult knowledge. Or
That's
stuff
classic.
Like that.
That's classic cop stereotype, though, where he's like
Yeah.
this fucking college fucking guy.
Yeah.
But well, not right after that, but there's a scene in the bar where they're talking about it later.
Yeah.
And Dick Durkin gives his off-the-cuff theory of like, I think it has to do with the killer being a Scorpio and like the cycle of the moon or whatever. He gives his whole theory, just no one asked him. Then Rutger Hauer goes, I want to hear your fucking theory without like referring to any educational whatever. Like, I want to hear what you think. And I was like, he just said what he thought.
I mean, to the credit of the Dick Durkin character, though, and by the way, I guess we should have mentioned this, I don't know, an hour ago. Dick Durkin is the partner of Rutger Hauer. So, he's
the young kid that's fresh out of detective school who's supposed to, I guess, who's supposed to watch Rutger Hauer too, because
to make sure he doesn't, go ape
go
shit.
up, which doesn't.
Which he does in every scene.
Anyway, what I was gonna say is the Dick Durkin character is didn't they say something about his one of his I don't even know if it wasn't his degree, but he was like involved with like the occult or serial killers or something specialized like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at least, most people probably would not even remember that was mentioned, but I mean, I did. So, at least it was thrown in there. So it wasn't like total, he's just gonna randomly know about this fucking shit that there's no way because the plot needs him to know about it. He's gonna know.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I thought that made sense in this movie because he's the one that starts offering all these theories, like he knows all this shit.
Yeah.
But we also have to talk about how Dick Durkin runs 5 miles every morning.
Yeah,
and he gets laid every day,
every night.
Every night,
all of that water, so that's even harder.
That's resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's lying.
I don't know. He doesn't seem like a guy that would lie.
Okay. So, are we ready to move on to I See You?
You ever play hide and seek? What makes that game so much fun? It's when the hunter is staring right at you.
One by one, he takes them.
I see you, but you don't see me.
One by one, they fall.
9 dead cops inside of 6 months.
This guy's a different breed.
FBI agent Jake Malloy has followed his trail to this remote outpost.
There's only 10 of you cops. I don't think anyone's gonna be bored.
Now, one by one,
Jack's missing.
his fellow officers are turning up dead.
Split the building into sections. Each person will clear that area.
Life begins with death.
He knows how the killer works.
What are you looking for?
It's him. He's taking trophies. He knows how he thinks.
You studied guys like this, right, Doc?
They don't just kill you.
What he doesn't know is who the killer is.
We're dropping like flies here. Hey, Malloy.
Time to see how strong you really are!
Shouldn't you be at home?
It's at my house. 1311, oh, west side, go, go!
I'm sorry, but Mary can't come to the phone right now.
Yeah, so the second movie I picked, which I've seen several times also, I actually own it. And I hadn't seen it for a while. It's I See You, right? It's from 2002, the slasher film with Sylvester Stallone. I'm sorry, it's an American psychological thriller. My bad. So this movie is also based on a book, which I thought was weird. I'm assuming that the book probably reads a lot better than this movie was. I mean,
and different.
And I'm sure it was a lot different. Yeah. The novel is called Jitter Joint, and it was written by Howard Swindle. No idea who that guy is, but from the same year. So basically, let me get to our log line, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, the synopsis for I See You. So when this film came out, obviously Stallone was in a kind of a career lull at the time. Which Craig probably knows a lot more about, considering his other podcast. So we don't really need to get into that a great deal.
By the time this comes out, the Stallone season of all 90s action all the time will actually, I think, be over. So it'll be like a nice segue of listening to more Stallone talk.
Anyway, so the log line is: a lead detective being stalked by a serial killer is asked to check into a clinic treating law enforcement officials who can't face their jobs. That is sort of what this movie is about. That's the stupidest fucking sounding thing I've ever heard. So essentially this movie turns into, you have Stallone as this cop, right? And, this killer is running around murdering other cops, and then the killer basically just starts targeting Stallone, and in fact kills Stallone's girlfriend, who he was going to marry, and it kind of shoves him over the edge, and he basically wants to kill himself, and his good friend Charles S. Dutton convinces him to go to Wyoming to this rehabilitation facility run by Chris Christopherson, who's a former cop. And the building is like this. It's basically like The Thing, the outpost in The Thing. It even kind of fucking resembles it. And it's out in the middle of nowhere in the dead of winter in Wyoming, where there's this, there's, I don't even remember the exact number, 6 or 7, 8, 10 other characters, basically trapped in this place. So it sounds fucking badass. Stallone in a slasher film. This is a slasher film too, by the way. Fuck that psychological shit, whatever it said that the genre is. This is a slasher film. And you'll see what I mean if you see it, especially the way that this this killer kind of, you know, does his shit. But it sounds like it would be really good. And honestly, I liked the movie for a while. And then it really kind of hits a wall. It's got a magnificent cast too, which we should mention. Because it's ridiculous, the fucking cast that they somehow managed to get together for this movie. You know, aside from Stallone, you have Robert Patrick, Chris Christopherson, Tom Berenger, Charles S. Dutton, who I already mentioned, Jeffrey Wright, who's nearly unrecognizable in the role he plays, Stephen Lang, Robert Prosky, Sean Patrick Flannery. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the cast that they somehow managed to get for this movie.
Yeah.
Largely every character, every one of these actors, though, minus Stallone, because obviously it's his movie, they're so underutilized, and to the point where it's almost like you could have gotten me to play one of those parts, and you know what I'm saying, and nobody would know the difference, because, you know, we mentioned before we started this show that so Chris Christopherson is the lead doctor guy at this rehab center, right? And it's like, oh, that's a cool role for him. Everybody loves Chris Christopherson, you know, rugged guy. This is a perfect role for him, except for he's in the movie for what, maybe 5 fucking minutes of screen time, and it's like, why even bother? Like, you know, it's like, in the 5 minutes that he's in it, it's cool to see him. He's obviously a really good actor, but why even bother? And then he dies. So, I mean, that's essentially what happens to all of these characters too. That's another place where the Thing comes up, is there's this overwhelming paranoia of everyone sort of out to get each other, sort of thing that goes on. It's nowhere near as good as the Thing, but it clearly likes it a lot, so I guess it's worth mentioning. But yeah, I thought it was good for a while. There's just a lot of stuff that is sort of neglected with having, especially actors that are this good, and this many character actors too, together basically in one room. They're not in one room, but one location. That I don't know, it doesn't work, and it's unfortunate because, like I said in describing this thing, it sounds like it should be fucking badass, but it's just not really. And it gets to a point, like maybe an hour in, where it's just like, how is this still going? Like, honestly.
Yeah. So before we start recording, I was telling them about this. So when I was young, I had a handful of VHSs and like early DVDs where you couldn't skip the trailers. And I can't remember what those were now, but I watched them a ton. And this was one of the main trailers on it. So I've seen this trailer more than any trailer ever. And yeah, and I didn't actually watch the movie for the first time until a couple years ago. So I've known about this trailer all this time. The trailer is whatever. It's a trailer. It's not even that great, but yeah, the movie itself, I'd say you can kind of tell. I know it was done in 99, and then it was shelved for 3 years, and during that time they did reshoots, re-edits, they recomposed, they pretty much everything of the movie. And you can tell that there was a lot of studio interference, and you could tell that it was meant to be a horror movie, like Josh said, but it was in that stage where horror movies weren't doing too well in the 90s. box office wise, so everything was trying to be the psychological thriller or trying to like reach that 7 level of like, oh, well, it's going to be a dark crime thriller or whatever it may be. So you can kind of feel that in it. And I don't know, I think the premise is fun. I always love a good movie set in the winter and a Thing-like movie, and I'm always there for it. But yeah, it's just you have all of these great characters that are just there. Like Josh was saying, they're not like, you just didn't use any of them, and you could kind of tell that Stallone was still in his ego phase, which he's probably still in today, but where you know, where he just needed to have control out of everything. And you know, there's like, I love Copland, and it will appear on the All 90s Action All the Time episode. So I love Copland, and it's that whole shift at the end of the 90s where he was trying so hard to be like, I just don't want to be the action guy, and yet there's moments in the script that don't call for it, and they added action type stuff, like without spoiling. I don't know, I know we don't want to spoil too much for anybody, like who the killer is or stuff like that, but you know, it definitely has Stallone showing his strength at points when it's not really necessary for that type of movie, I think. Yeah, and all these kind of underused characters, they aren't really given proper arcs or stuff. It just kind of feels like they're given a stereotype of like whatever, like Jeffrey Wright is the narc cop who tried to kill himself, and that's just like, that's who he is. Oh, that's your kind of thing, and then that's it, like all surface level. And you know, that's how it feels. I feel like we were talking about 2 beforehand. It's something where they could have just started with Stallone entering the facility, or you wouldn't even need a lot. They spend so much time on the setup that when you get to the actual, like, the facility, it's kind of, I don't know, you're already exhausted by everything else.
Well, just real quick, it was clearly one of those things that was done like intentionally within the script, was to, the first act of this is going to be all this, and then the second act from till the end is going to be this drastic change where now we're in, you know, the location of the rehab center. But yeah, I agree that you should have had that, like, if it was like 24 minutes in, you should have done it like 15 minutes in.
Yeah.
He should have been, you know, just to speed it up, because it literally just hits a fucking wall, and you're just like, dude, you wasted way too much time.
Because all the other cops and the key players in this movie, they aren't introduced till way later, and the movie itself is only, it's like 97 minutes. I can't remember.
Oh, it's like 92 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, you don't really get that much time with anybody besides,
And not only that, but like, you, like, honestly, do you know their names, the character names? Because exactly. And it's like, it's not for lack of them, you know, not saying the fucking names. It's because you don't, it's not memorable at all. It's just like, oh yeah, it's Tom Berenger.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Somehow or another, he's a fucking janitor or whatever in this movie. Like, you're a fucking A-list star, like Kyle was saying, but you know, you're gonna be a great janitor.
Yeah. I mean, for the sake of watching it for the podcast, I had to keep looking at like either the IMDb or the Wikipedia or whatever it may be, just for the cast, the names. And I'd keep going back throughout the movie, like, wait, so his name was Slater, his name was, what is it, Jadarsky, or what, I don't even remember now.
Yeah, and it's like, why would you pick names that are that impossible to fucking, you know, like even pronounce? Like, Jesus, dude.
Well, why do you get all those great actors and not use them?
Yeah.
That's like the biggest problem. Like it's clearly a one protagonist movie.
Yeah.
And then we introduce an ensemble, and then we're like, yeah, this isn't going to be an ensemble movie, though. We're just going to have them here do fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Because it's Stallone and he can't work with an ensemble.
They could have cut down all those people, too.
Yeah.
Like in half.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There could have been, like I said, there was like maybe 8 or 9 maybe total. Yeah, you could have done well with just 5 at the most. That would have worked.
But you needed a body count. That's
true. And we haven't even mentioned, so we haven't even really talked about the killer guy and how kind of just outright ridiculous all of that was. So essentially what happens is, and again, we're spoiling the shit out of this and I'm not going to fucking hesitate, but essentially this guy that's the killer in the film, he's really got it in for Stallone's character, right? And as we mentioned, the killer murders Stallone's girlfriend that he was going to ask to marry him, and that's the kind of catalyst that pushes him over the edge. Okay, blah blah blah. So you learn sort of that one of the cops in the rehab center is not who he says he is, because he took over the identity essentially of the guy that was supposed to be there. Anyway, that's fine and that whatever, but when you kind of sort of learn like the motivation behind why this killer is doing what he's doing, it's just kind of like, wait, huh? Is that fucking real? Because it doesn't have, to me anyway, it was so ludicrous that he was murdering all of these fucking people, and he's clearly way smarter than everyone. It's just like, dude, just be happy with that. Like, I don't really think it warrants you murdering all of these police officers and going to all of this fucking trouble to do what you're doing. It's like, fuck.
So how he was murdering initially before he committed suicide and they thought he was dead or whatever it may be.
Yeah, so he made it seem like he committed suicide and the movie's over, the killer's dead. Yeah. Obviously that shit didn't happen.
Yeah. And so he knocked on the door, would knock on like their door, they would go look into the peephole of their door, and then he would drill through it, get them in the eye, and then then shoot them. Like that was the thing. It's like, well, if that was your MO, like you had to really hope that one, they had a peephole in their door, and that like that's a whole like setup that's a lot harder than you realize.
And it's also just not like it's a cool idea, and then they cut it so quick, like the 2 times they show it, and I'm like, this is like the coolest idea in the whole movie, and you just like breeze by that.
Well, and it's fucking hilarious too, now that we bring that up, is that he does it to 2 different people in the span of what, like 10 minutes? And it's like, damn, dude, that shit is working out well for you.
Yeah.
He also so he uses a voice changer, and then he hangs all the bodies apparently.
Yeah.
But especially the way he hangs like Stallone's girlfriend, I'm just like, you guys saw Scream, and you were like, well, we'll take that voice changer for the phone call. Hanging people looks cool. We're gonna take that.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! That's funny that you mentioned that too, because like I said, I've seen this movie a bunch. It had been a while though, and like at the very beginning of the film, like as the credits are rolling, you get like what is obviously the antagonist, the killer's voice, like doing this voiceover thing with the voice changer, and I'm like, holy shit, you guys really liked Scream, didn't you? I mean, just right out of the gate, we're gonna we're gonna take the Scream voice changer, because it almost sounds like it too.
I know, and it's just like right out of the gate, Scream and 7. We're just taking that shit right there.
Oh Yeah, even the way that the credit sequence is put together, it's like, yeah, dude, you like Fincher shit too, don't you?
Yeah.
I can tell.
So I was super disappointed by the twist also because
yeah.
Because, well, I mean, obviously there's the feeling that, like, well, maybe this is all some kind of setup just to get Stallone, because it's so kind of outlandish of a place. The place looks like a fucking location from a James Bond movie.
Yeah.
It does.
Like it looks like it should be in GoldenEye. But, you know, I mean, you feel like, well, it's got to be fucking Chris Christopherson, or it's got to be the female doctor.
Yeah.
Somebody that's, like, being close to Stallone. Or like Stephen Lang is like way too much of a red herring because he just is glaring at every line he has is "fuck you." He's like, "Oh yeah, it's nice to see you," but his subtext is "fuck you, I'm gonna kill you." But I really fucking wanted this dude. It would never happen because it's a Stallone movie. But I was like, it would be so fucking cool if the twist was that Stallone just lost his goddamn mind. And he doesn't even know that he's just like killing everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they so one thing that I did think it sort of worked in the movie. I don't know that it necessarily was good, but I felt like what something that did work was kind of placing everyone under suspicion, even for the audience, right? Because obviously, you know, like you just were mentioning with the Stephen Lang character, like he just clearly, like right away, it's like, okay, could be Stephen Lang, plus it's Stephen Lang, but as Kyle said, that's way too fucking obvious. So in doing that, I think having an ending where it wasn't real would have been so much more impactful, because you're definitely trying to make the audience think of, well, could it be this person? Could it be this person? Could it be this person? And then have it not be any of them? I mean, that would have worked better for damn sure.
Yeah, and you already spent so much time focusing on Stallone in the beginning too. That it could be like good, but
But since it's Stallone, he's notorious for doing rewrites on his stuff, and you know, I don't even think to this day he could ever be not even a villain, but put himself as either dying or being a horrible character or stuff like that. Like there's just a certain boundary he won't cross, it seems. He'll, whatever, in Rambo have all these horrible things happen to other people, especially if you've seen the last Rambo or whatever. Isn't it just called Last Rambo? But yeah, his character is still all righteous and all that.
Oh yeah, Last Blood.
There we go. Yeah,
that's a whole nother topic of how awesome Last Blood was.
Yeah. If you want to hear us talk about that movie,
I mean, it is semi-horror.
Yeah,
it is fucking semi-horror. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Speaking of slashers, yeah. So yeah, anyway, this movie, like Craig mentioned this, it was shot in 1999, and it literally just sat in a fucking vault or whatever for 3 fucking years, as they did this, or they fucked with this, or they tinkered with this, or whatever was going on. And I mean, if that doesn't spell, there's something wrong if it's taking that, especially with all these actors. Like the actors alone should just sell this movie.
Yeah.
And they try, but
they did a test audience too when it first was done, and that's what really set everything, I think, rolling. From what I read up on it.
Yeah.
Like he was ready to go, and then the test audience was really negative with it. And then
yeah, I wonder why.
I wonder what the original cut was like.
Yeah.
Was any better or just as stupid?
I'm sure. I can guess it was probably darker.
Yeah.
Or maybe it wasn't as actiony. I don't know. I know they said they changed the ending. But
which was
Yeah,
clearly
they
written,
changed-
which was clearly written by Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. They even rewrote story arc elements. So, yeah. It was just basically basically a new movie from what it sounds like.
And now I just want to write a Stallone slasher where he's working on a movie and they want him to be a bad guy and he just flips his shit and starts killing everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, now see, that movie sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's still in shape to be able to do that.
You're goddamn right, yeah. He needs the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we've pretty much covered the fact that on paper this movie should be amazing. And it's just just a complete, obviously there were issues going all the way up to fucking, studio suits and fucking who knows. So they ended up taking what should have been a badass thing and making it not badass.
So our favorites are Split Second.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, it's a great kind of, I guess, showing contrast of like two movies that use a bunch of different genres, and then one that works despite its flaws and one that doesn't work despite its strengths, or
Well, one that really doesn't know what it is too. Like like they're trying to do a slasher, but they're like, we don't really want to do a slasher. We don't really know how slashers work, and that's why this movie doesn't fucking work at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true. It's just like you should probably figure that out before you commit to a $55 million budget or whatever it was to pay all those really fucking high talent actors for basically doing nothing.
Yeah.
Tom Berenger, you're an A-list actor, but you're gonna be the fucking janitor.
But I will say, I still will go with Jeffrey Wright he has the best line of the whole thing of when he finds out that Stallone was a Fed. He says, there's three things that are overrated: home cooking, home fucking, and the FBI, or whatever it says.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, so is that our final thoughts on everything?
Oh, probably not, but I don't know that I can really keep going. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you so much for listening. The next double feature is my pick, and it will be 2 Korean films that have potentially, may or may not, probably never will, get remade, but high profile American remakes, and that is the Save the Green Planet and The Chaser will be those picks. The Korean version, obviously, we're not going to talk about the potential American movies that may or may not come. Yeah, if you like the movies that we're talking about today, Split Second or ICU/Detox, talk or send us comments, like, share, review if you love them, if you hated the films as well, which we didn't really hate them, but just send us what you think. If you have any suggestions, obviously, because we are reaching the bottom of the barrel for obscure and independent horror films, obviously send us your suggestions and we'll try and get to them. And as always, thank you for listening.
Bloodhound Pix podcast is part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcast Network. Produced by Josh Lee, Craig Drum, and Kyle Hintz. Music by Raymond Seed. Editing by Kyle Hintz.